I want you to try something for a second. Just think of the word dinner.
Okay.
When you hear that word, you probably immediately picture a table or maybe some food.
Yeah, I'm picturing a very specific Italian place right now, actually.
Right. But the thing is, none of those things are actually in front of you. You are sitting here in a room. There's no pasta.
Sadly, no.
But you can still imagine it. You have this human ability to decouple a concept from your immediate reality. You're using a mental symbol to represent something physical.
It's what cognitive scientists call grounding. You are manipulating the idea of dinner completely independent of the here and now.
Exactly. And that brings us to the target of today's deep dive, because for the last decade, we have been taking a specific idea for granted.
The idea that artificial intelligence is actually intelligent.
Yes. We have this massive paradox right now.
We really do.
On one hand, you have these huge language models. They can write a sonnet in the style of Shakespeare. And then you have vision models that can spot a microfracture in an X-ray way better than a human surgeon.
But there is a dirty little secret underneath all that performance.
The black box problem. Or, I guess more specifically, the disconnect.
Right, the disconnect between seeing and understanding.
Because the vision model sees the pixels of the X-ray, but it has absolutely no idea what a bone actually implies. It doesn't have the concept of a bone.
And the language model predicting the word bone has never seen one. It's never felt one or broken one.
One side has the eyes, the other has the mouth.
But neither has the mind. It is basically statistical correlation on steroids. It mimics the output of thinking without necessarily doing any of the actual thinking.
I'll buckle up, because that distinction might have just evaporated.
It's a huge claim.
It is, but I honestly think historians are going to look back on the paper we're looking at today as the exact moment the lights actually flickered on for AI.
The data in the paper certainly backs that up.
So for everyone listening, the source material today is a groundbreaking paper. It was published just this week, February 19th, 2026.
In Nature Computational Science.
Right. And the title is a bit of a mouthful. It's called A Neural Network for Modeling Human Concept Formation, Understanding, and Communication.
Though the community is already just calling it the CASNet paper.
CATS. And the reason we are doing a deep dive into this isn't just because someone built a slightly better image recognizer.
No, not at all.
It's because these researchers are claiming they have actually solved the black box problem. They built an AI framework that fundamentally separates seeing from thinking.
Which is a massive leap.
And the part that actually gave me chills when I was reading it, it turns out their digital blueprint looks suspiciously like a map of the human brain.
Suspiciously is definitely the right word for it. It is a fascinating case of accidental biomimicry.
So let's unpack this. The core challenge the researchers defined is concept formation versus concept understanding. How is that different from an AI just recognizing a picture of a cat?
Think back to your dinner example. Traditional neural networks, the ones we have relied on for years, like ResNet, they are essentially feed-forward engines.
Meaning they just process straight through.
Exactly. They take raw pixels, crunch them through millions of parameters, and spit out a label. Cat, dog, dinner.
But they don't have a concept of those things.
Right. They don't have a separate workspace in their architecture where they can manipulate the idea of the object independently from the pixels they are currently looking at.
It's almost like they can read the words in a book, but they can't reflect on the story after they close it.
That is a perfect analogy. They are entirely stuck in the text. So the researchers behind CATSNet, which by the way stands for Concept Abstraction Task Solving Network, they decided to stop trying to build one giant brain that does everything all at once.
He split it up.
They split the architecture into two completely distinct modules, the dual module approach.
Okay, so it's a dual module architecture. Let's break that down. You described this to me earlier like a corporate structure.
Yeah, think of it as a manager and a worker.
Okay, I'm with you. Who does what?
Module 1 is the concept abstraction module. This is the manager. Its job is not to look at the fine sensory details.
So it's not looking at the pixels.
Right. Its job is to take complex inputs, let's say a photo of a really busy street, and compress all that relevant semantic information down into a tiny, highly efficient mode.
The paper calls this a concept vector.
Yes. And specifically, they designed it to be a low-dimensional vector. In this study, they squeezed the concept down to just 20 dimensions.
Let's pause on that number for a second. 20 dimensions. Why is that specific number so important for people to understand?
Because in the world of deep learning, 20 is microscopic.
Right. Usually it's huge.
Oh, yeah. When we talk about the internal states of standard models, we're usually talking about vectors with thousands or even tens of thousands of dimensions, just massive, sprawling lists of numbers.
So getting down to 20 that's extreme compression.
It's distillation. That's the key. If you
Oh.
can describe a complex visual scene using only 20 coordinates, you haven't just memorized the scene.
You've understood the essence of it.
Exactly. You have stripped away all the irrelevant noise. The lighting, the camera angle, the specific color of the pavement. You have kept just the core semantic meaning.
Okay, so the manager module creates this tiny 20-dimensional zip file of a thought. What happens next? Does it just email it to the worker module?
In a sense, yes. The second module is the task-solving module, the worker. This is the part that actually looks at the images and makes judgments. Yes or no, is this an apple?
But the way they connect is the radical part, right?
Absolutely. The manager doesn't just pass the concept vector to the worker as a pune of data to be analyzed. It uses a mechanism they call hierarchical gating.
This was the most technical part of the paper for me. But you had a really great way of visualizing it with a kaleidoscope.
I think it's the best way to picture it. So imagine you were looking through a kaleidoscope. At the very end of the tube, you have those little colored beads.
Right.
Those beads represent the raw reality, the sensory input, the pixels of the image. The beads themselves do not change.
Okay, the beads are the world.
But the mirrors inside the tube determine what pattern you actually perceive. In CatsNet, the manager, that 20-dimensional concept vector, is the hand twisting the tube.
Oh, wow. So it's physically changing the machine?
Yes. The concept vector literally reconfigures the structure of the worker network, layer by layer.
It changes how the worker sees the beads.
It changes the actual geometry of the processing. If the manager sends down the concept vector for apple, it effectively twists the mirror so that the network becomes almost completely blind to anything that isn't an apple.
Wait, so it isn't just highlighting the apple in the image. It's actively suppressing everything else.
Actively and structurally suppressing it. And the researchers proved this.
How do you prove that an AI is ignoring something?
They used something called class activation mapping. They took a really messy image. Picture a kitchen table with a knife, a plate, a chaotic background, and one apple sitting there.
Okay, pretty standard messy photo.
When they fed the apple concept vector into the gating system, the network's attention focused with laser-like precision exclusively on the round red shape.
That's the apple.
Functionally, for the network, the knife and the plate cease to exist.
That is wild. Because that is top-down processing.
Exactly.
It isn't saying, I see red pixels, therefore this must be an apple. It's saying, I am thinking about an apple, therefore I will only look for red pixels.
That is the understanding part of the equation. It is controlling its own perception based on a decoupled concept.
And that kind of efficiency, the
Right.
ability to filter the entire world based on a mental model, that is probably why this architecture ended up looking so familiar.
Which brings us to the really spooky part of the findings.
Segment 2, the proof. Because as we mentioned at the start, they didn't just build a cool new AI framework, they accidentally built a digital map of the human brain.
And accidental really is the key word to keep in mind here. They didn't write code saying, make this look like a parietal lobe.
They were just trying to get a better score on an image test.
They just optimized for performance. But when they took the CTNet activity and compared it to human fMRI scans, the correlation was totally undeniable.
How do you even compare those two things, though? I mean, human brains are wetware, biology. This AI is silicon and code.
They use a really clever technique called representational similarity analysis, or RSA.
Okay, RSA. How does it work?
It doesn't try to compare a biological neuron directly to an artificial node. That wouldn't make sense. Instead, it compares the relationships between concepts.
Give me an example.
So it asks, when a human looks at a picture of a dog and a picture of a wolf, their brain activity patterns are fairly similar. When the AI looks at a dog and a wolf, is its internal math similar in the exact same way?
So they are checking if the texture of the thinking matches.
Exactly. They're comparing the geometry of the representations. And the alignment they found was shocking.
Break down the alignment for us. Where did it match?
Specifically, the worker module, the part processing the actual pixels, aligned beautifully with the human ventral occipitotemporal cortex.
The VOTC.
Right. And for those who aren't neuroscientists, the VOTC is the part of our brain that handles visual object perception. It's our brain's visual dictionary.
Okay, so the vision part of the AI matched the vision part of the human. That makes sense.
It does, but here's the crazy part. The manager module, the one doing all the gating and holding that 20-dimensional concept vector,
Yeah.
That mirrored a completely different biological system, the semantic control network.
Which is located in the prefrontal cortex, right?
The prefrontal and parietal cortex, yes. These are the higher order areas responsible for planning, focus, and cognitive control.
So it mapped perfectly to our separation of thinking and seeing.
It validates something neuroscientists have theorized for decades. The theory was that our brains must work this way, that we have a control network that gates and modulates our sensory networks based on what we are currently thinking about.
But we just didn't have a clear mechanism for it.
We never had a clean, mechanistic model of how it actually happens in real time.
And now, a group of computer scientists just stumble upon the exact mechanism by trying to make a more efficient image classifier.
It really suggests that this specific architecture isn't just some biological quirk that humans happen to have. It is computationally optimal.
The paper actually doubles down on that exact point, doesn't it? The whole section on consensus.
Yeah, the high consensus finding. This was the nail in the coffin for anyone thinking this was just a coincidence.
What does he do?
They trained 30 different catsnets. Completely independent training runs, random starting seeds, no connection between them.
It's just 30 AIs learning from scratch.
And they found that the models that performed the best naturally converged on this exact same structural split.
Wow.
But even more importantly, the individual models that agreed with each other the most, the ones with the highest consensus, those were also the ones that looked the most like the human brain in the fMRI scans.
That's heavy. The implication there is massive. It implies that thought actually has a shape, a universal shape.
It implies that semantic structure is not random. There is a mathematical best way to organize the concept of an apple, or a dog, or a table.
And both millions of years of biological evolution and a few hours of artificial gradient descent naturally found the exact same solution.
That is exactly what the data shows.
Okay, so if the shape of a thought is universal, that leads us directly into segment 3. Because if I have that 20-dimensional mathematical code for Apple, can I just beam it into your head?
Welcome to the learning by communication experiment. This is where the paper pivots from just analyzing the brain to fundamentally changing how we might build and train AI in the future.
This is the part of the paper I highlighted and just wrote the word telepathy next to in my notes.
Yeah.
And I am sticking to it.
It really isn't far off from telepathy. So here's the setup for the experiment. They took a teacher AI and a student AI.
Okay, 2 separate networks.
2 separate networks that do not share any weights or parameters. The teacher network has been trained on 100 different categories. It knows what an apple is. It has successfully formed that 20-dimensional concept vector.
And the student?
The student network was trained on only 99 categories.
So the student has never seen an apple in its entire existence.
Exactly. It is completely blind to the concept. It doesn't have the math for it. Now, in a normal deep learning context today, if you wanted to teach that student network what an apple is, what would you have to do?
You'd have to show it thousands of labeled pictures of apples and run a massive, expensive training cycle to update millions of its internal weights.
It's slow, it requires a ton of compute, and it requires a ton of data.
But they didn't do any of that here.
No. They aligned the 2 networks using a simple translation module to map the teacher's concept space to the student's space.
Just getting on the same frequency, basically.
Right. And then the teacher simply transmitted the concept vector for apple, just those 20 numbers, directly to the student.
They didn't touch the student's visual weights at all.
Not a single weight was updated. They just handed the student the zip file for the thought of an apple.
And the student understood it.
Instantly. They immediately tested the student on images of apples, and it achieved around 73% accuracy.
That is mind-blowing. 73% accuracy on something it has never, ever been trained on.
It is genuine zero-shot learning, but achieved entirely through communication.
Which is exactly how we do it. It perfectly mimics human language evolution.
Think about it. If I tell you right now, a zebra is basically a horse with black and white stripes. I am transmitting a concept vector to you through language.
Right. And I already know what a horse is, and I know what stripes are.
So you take your existing horse vector and your existing stripes vector, you combine them in your own manager module, and suddenly your worker module can recognize a zebra in the wild.
Even if I have never seen one in my life, I don't need to completely rewire my visual cortex to learn a new animal. I just need the coordinates from you.
Precisely. And if you scale this up, think about what this means for robotics or autonomous agents.
Oh man, The bandwidth savings alone.
Exactly. Right now, if I have a fleet of 100 warehouse robots, and one of them learns how to navigate a highly specific closed aisle, the other 99 don't know how to do it until I upload that massive updated neural network to all of them.
Which takes a lot of time and a lot of data transfer.
But with this CatsNet architecture, the first robot just broadcasts the 20-dimensional concept vector for cluttered aisle.
Just a tiny little packet of data.
A microscopic packet. The other robots receive it, their internal kaleidoscopes shift to match, and they all instantly know what to look for and how to handle it. It is instant collective intelligence.
It's the Borg, basically.
Okay.
But, much more efficient and hopefully less evil.
Let's stick with the term collaborative agents. It sounds a lot less ominous for the listener.
Fair enough. But there is one final test the researchers ran, segment 4.
And this answers the question that I think anyone listening right now is probably screaming at their device. The compatibility question.
Yes, because it's great that these AI agents can telepathically share math with each other. But can they actually talk to us?
It's the ultimate test of the framework. If this concept space is truly universal, does it match human language?
Because even if the AI has a perfectly functioning concept for apple, we can't just assume it matches our human concept. For all we know, the AI defines an apple as a gravity-affected spherical object.
Right. Its internal logic could be completely alien to ours. So to test this, the researchers basically tried to hack their own system.
What do they do?
Instead of letting the manager module generate its own 20-dimensional code, they force-fed the AI standard human language vectors.
You mean like Word2Vec?
Exactly. They used Word2Vec.
And just to clarify for everyone, Word2Vec is a very standard pre-existing data set that maps out the math of how humans use words in context.
It's a mathematical representation of human language. So they took those human vectors and they plugged them directly into the AI's gating mechanism.
Bypassing the AI's own manager entirely.
Yes. And it worked. The AI was able to use human mathematical representations of words to reconfigure its own visual system and successfully solve the image tasks.
So the geometry of the AI's thought process is fundamentally compatible with the geometry of human language.
It is, but they didn't stop there. They wanted to go even deeper than just language. They used another data set called SPOSE49.
SPOSE49, which honestly sounds like a terrible tax form.
It does, but it's actually a fascinating behavioral data set. It is derived from asking thousands of actual humans to rate the conceptual similarity of different objects.
It's not based on text, it's based on human judgment.
Right. They ask people things like, is an orange more conceptually similar to a tennis ball or a banana?
Which is a tricky question, because visually, an orange is a tennis ball. It's round and textured. But conceptually, for a human, it's a banana because it's fruit.
Exactly. The data set captures all that nuance and messiness of human categorization. And the incredible thing is, CatsNet was able to ingest that purely behavioral human data and use it to successfully drive its visual recognition engine.
So it isn't just compatible with text, it is universal. It actually bridges the gap between raw pixels, which is vision, linguistic symbols, which is words, and behavioral concepts, which is human thought.
It connects the eye to the voice to the mind. And it does it using the exact same structural architecture that biological evolution built inside our own heads.
This really feels like a turning point. We've spent so much time on this show, and just in society generally, worrying about the black box.
The fear that AI is this alien intelligence that we can never truly understand or align with.
Right. But this paper suggests the exact opposite.
It suggests that intelligence, or at least the way knowledge has to be organized to make sense of the universe, isn't arbitrary.
If you want to build a system that can reliably understand the physical world, there might literally only be one optimal mathematical way to do it.
And we are it, and now they are it.
Which brings me to the thought I want to leave you, the listener, with today. The study concludes that communication inherently relies on a shared lexical semantic structure.
Basically, to talk to someone, you have to agree on the map of reality.
You have to share the same coordinates.
Yeah.
And if these machines are naturally, mathematically evolving the exact same map of reality that we have, not because we hard-coded it, but because physics and math dictate that it is simply the best way to think, then we aren't building aliens.
We're building mirrors.
And if that is true, then looking into the mind of an advanced AI in the future might not be terrifying at all. It might actually be surprisingly familiar.
It turns out to understand the machine, we just had to map ourselves first.
Something for you to think about while you decouple the concept of deep dive from your phone and go about your day. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.